What you cooking, Mom?
Fucking cut.
Now I'm gonna go purchase one. That's the problem.
This ain't for me. I was like,
the background is mom and dad was addicted to crack cocaine. Right?
All praises to the Most High. Hi, how are you? I am Doc Holliday, host of the Doc Holliday Show, where we like to uplift black men, black women, black teen, black child, black royalty, and I am joined by a black royal, Memphis black royal, Shelby County Mayor, Lee Harris. Mayor Harris, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks a lot for having me.
Man, thanks for coming. First of all, like I said, it's all about positivity, uplift, black men, black women. You're from Memphis. I know about you. A lot of people out there know about you, but some people, because YouTube, we hit the world.
That's right.
Tell people that, some people a little bit about your background. I know you're born and raised in Memphis.
That's right. So born and raised here in Whitehaven area. And I went to Alsea Elementary School for the most part for 4 years. And I went to Garden View in Whitehaven for a couple of years. And then John P. Freeman in Overton High School. And had tried to play the trumpet at Overton. A lot of your listeners will know Overton is the performing arts school, so I tried my hand at that. That didn't take too well. I wasn't too good at that, and so I ended up doing other things while I was at Overton. But I did enjoy my time in the marching band for the time I was there, and then went on to college in Atlanta, Morehouse, and that was one heck of an experience going there. Then I went to law school, and in between studied abroad in London and in Spain and in France, and did as much as I could to try to prepare myself to come back home, because I love Memphis and I always knew I wanted to be back in Memphis, and knew I wanted to be a part of changing the community. And I really thought politics was one way to do that. That's because, just what I'd seen around the community growing up. And also one of my first kind of formative experiences was an internship that I got from the Congressional Black Caucus. And I ended up interning in Washington, D.C. for a member of Congress. And that was really, really eye-opening. It was a fast-paced environment. And I met a lot of folks who were really committed to, helping their community. And that really turned me on to politics and to service. And so first opportunity I got into it. I run a bunch of races at this point, but I'm glad to be back in Memphis and glad to be serving. And now I've really made it, because now I'm on your show. So that feels real good too.
Appreciate it. Now, you can be on the show more often. We can do some things. Just holler at me. We'll work something out. But this is what I love about you, man, because you are from Memphis. You're from the inner city. You went to Alsea. That's in South Memphis. I know because my mom grew up in South Memphis on Perry Road. They went to Alsea. But being from Alsea, then living in Whitehaven, I'm from Whitehaven. But just the struggles, little black boy at that age, because I'm pretty sure you didn't think you wanted to be a mayor or a senator or any city councilman at that age. What were your aspirations? I know you wanted to play the trumpet in Overton, but you had to have some kind of aspirations as a little black boy in the inner city.
Well, I think my main aspiration as I kind of got a little bit older, so middle school and even high school, was to be a lawyer. My dad was he's had a bunch of jobs. He was mainly a teacher at Colonial Middle School for most of his career, but he's had other jobs when I was growing up in addition to teaching school. So he was, a repairman, and he's still a repairman to this day, and does HVAC primarily. And he also was a bartender. So he was a bartender for more than 10 years at Captain Bilbo's, which was downtown. But the reason why I bring him up is because when I was a child, he really watched a lot of these criminal justice kind of shows, Beale Street Blues, Law and Order, shows that had lots of lawyers around. And so that really made me aware of law as a career. I don't have any lawyers in my family, at least at that time. I do now. But at that time, I had no lawyers in my family, had no concept of what it would take to become a lawyer or anything like that. But he watched those shows, and I said to myself, man, that's what I want to be. I think I want to be a lawyer, and I just followed that path. And people told me things that I really took to heart my entire life. People told me things like everything's been done before. I took that to heart, and so for me, growing up, that meant find somebody who has charted the path and try as best you can to replicate or understand what they did to get where they are. Try to understand that. And so I learned that early on, and that's worked out well for me. I also learned that, try to listen to the teachers and so forth. I mean, I was a kid that got in a lot of trouble, as a lot of black boys get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So that's not unusual. But I think one of the things that helped me to still have lots of opportunity is at the end of the day, somebody older than me told me something. I kind of took it to heart, and I kind of believed them. I didn't dismiss it out of hand. So that could have been anybody. If it was a teacher, if it were this or that, I took it to heart. So somewhere along the way, somebody told me, Morehouse is the best school for blacks in America, right? That's what they told me.
Yeah,
and I didn't know whether that was true or not true, but they told me that. And I said, well, I guess that's where I'm going to go to school. And then, you get to college and somebody tells you about Emory. I never heard of Emory. Emory has a law school and Georgia State has a law school. I'd never heard of those places before. But they told me, you can go to law school here and do these kind of things, and started figuring out who had done those kinds of things before. And then one day, while I was in college, I met a guy. He was a practicing lawyer, a black guy. He came to Morehouse to give a speech, and he went to Harvard Law School. And I had never even dreamed or thought about anything like that. And he gave a speech, and we asked him all kinds of questions like, how did you end up where you ended up? And he told us his path. And I said, oh, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm going to follow everything you said and make sure that I'm in a position to achieve what you talked about in this talk. And that was early on in my Morehouse career, having been exposed to a lot of different things when you go away for the first time. And that was more or less my first time kind of going away from Memphis. And I followed everything he laid down, and he was exactly right. You do this, over here in these kind of classes and these kind of grades. You do this over here to prepare for your standardized tests and so forth. You do this to fill out the summers, and it'll all turn out this way. And that was true. So, I got in a lot of trouble when I was at ILC, and I'm sure all the teachers remember me, right? A lot of trouble when I in middle school and so forth. And now, again, all my teachers are still around. They all remember me very well. But at the end of the day, I think everybody would say, but he did listen. He did listen. When you gave him a nugget of truth about life, he would sit up and listen. I'll tell you another one. Somebody told me once, they said, well, Lee, you got to go to class anyway, right? And they were right. I said, yeah, you're right. I got to go to class. My parents are not going to let me miss class. Yeah. And they said, well, if you got to go to class anyway, why don't you go ahead and make a good grade? Because you got to be here.
How about that?
It's just the way they explained it. I receive. Yeah, I've always said I'm a good student in the sense that somebody gives me some advice, I really receive it. And they said, you could be here every day and make a bad grade, or be here every day and make a good grade. You're going to be here no matter what. Yeah. So go ahead and make a good grade. So I said, oh, yeah, that sounds right. All right, I'll do that. Yeah. And sure enough, they were right. You make some good grades and do a few things here. You can still get in trouble, right? You can still get in trouble from time to time. Nothing big, but you can get in trouble. And you will have plenty of opportunity ahead, and you just kind of stay on it. And another thing, I don't know if anybody told me this part, but I will say this part, is it's important, in my mind, to set your sights on a goal. And it doesn't matter what the goal is, right? It doesn't matter. It's the idea that you're moving towards something I found is more important than really whether you change your mind. And we know people are going to change their mind. They'll change their goals. But you've got to be moving towards something. And so when I was, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, and I decided, no, I'm going to go to law school, that was helpful to me, because that helped me to think about, well, what does it take to get to law school? And that automatically gets you thinking, well, I got to go to college. And that automatically gets you thinking, well, what other colleges? What are they out there? Who do I even ask about that kind of stuff? So it gets you thinking all those things. So I always try to tell young folks that I'm around, choose something. You can change it after a while as you get more information and you figure out what you like and don't like, but make some choices, right? Because if you don't make any choices, then you're kind of out there and you're not making a plan. And it's all about making a plan. And for me, that's worked out tremendously. So went there and came back and ran for a bunch of offices. Mm-hmm.
And you won. And
I won.
And leading up to that, but going back to like your childhood and coming up, how do you maneuver around all those negative influences? Because being from Memphis, being from the inner city like you are, like I am, I had plenty of guys who they don't want to talk about being a lawyer. Now they want to do some. They want to talk about things that's gonna cause them to need a lawyer. You know, they want to do that. Yeah. But you also had a couple who wanted to do some things. But more than likely, you had guys who were like, you know, it is what it is. Life isn't fair. You know, we got these struggles. How did you maneuver through without getting into any major trouble?
Right. So it's a real tough one because, as you said, there are a lot of talented folks in the urban core, a lot of really, really smart people. And I don't know that I was the smartest or not. I did well, but there were a lot of people that could have done well, a lot of people that were really savvy and really smart. And I don't know, because I hung out as much as anybody in my neighborhood throughout my life. I mean, I hung out every day. There's no doubt about it. I think, you know, at some point, I think it's just, again, the people that you kind of run into. And sometimes it's just random. And I think, you know, somebody told me internships were important, right? Somebody told me that. So after somebody told me Morehouse was a great school, right? Yeah. So that was important. And then somebody told me internships were important. And so I did an internship immediately, you know, right. I think I might have done one before I went to college. In fact, I'm sure I did. I did one before I went to college. And then I did one after my first year of college because people told me that. And that made all the difference because it meant I was doing something positive at a critical time. So, you know, you get to be 18 and 19 and so forth, 17. That's a pretty critical time. And I had, you know, plenty of friends. My best friends at that time didn't make it through college. I mean, didn't make it through high school. They didn't make it through high school on time. You know, various things happened, and they weren't permitted to graduate. So for me, again, I was doing summer programs around that time. So I just missed some of the things they got into, some of the trouble they got into, and that's just because somebody told me and I listened to them. So I guess if there's a lesson here, and I don't know, but if there's a lesson here, it's just when somebody's older than you says something, try to listen. And I know that's hard. I know it's hard not to be smart.
Especially now, yeah.
I know it's hard, but it is true. And I just always believed it, that people older than you have kind of been through some of that before. Mm-hmm. They kind of been through that before. And for me, it started with teachers. You know, as I said, my dad was mostly a teacher for most of my life. And my mom was a high school guidance counselor. So I really kind of believe teachers knew something. And so if I had a teacher somewhere in some school told me something about life, you know, teachers, you know, they pull you aside after class, tell you big things. Like you need to go to college. You need to do an internship. You need to watch this class. Don't enroll in these kind of classes. Mm-hmm. You know, these kind of things, these big old things. If I had a teacher tell me something, it stuck. It stuck. And I was going to listen. And so that's the lesson here, is that people around you have been through what you're looking for if you're young. So if you're young and you want to be a astronaut or go to the military or be a lawyer or be a business owner, there's somebody literally from your hood who has done exactly the kind of things you want to do. And all you have to do is kind of track them. I used to give a speech about that. You have to recognize there's a difference between role models and mentors. And it is true, not everybody has mentors. And, you know, I'm one of those growing up. I don't know if I had a lot of mentors. I had my mom and my dad, which is great, and they were super committed to making sure we had all kinds of opportunities. But I didn't have those other group of mentors that, you know, pour into you, give you lessons, give you opportunities and all these kind of things. But what everyone has, and what I certainly have, were role models. It's the idea that you can find somebody out there to be your role model, and you don't even have to talk to them. You don't have to meet them. All you have to do is observe them, and you can learn a lot by that. And so, you know, I'll never forget the time I met. I tell this story to him once. I met Kenneth Robinson. So Kenneth Robinson, I think I met him when I was in the eighth grade. And, you know, Kenneth Robinson is the president of United Way, and he is a pastor, and he's a really great leader and servant in this community, African-American man. I met him in 8th grade, and I met him for about 5 minutes, and I never forget that moment, because he came in and he was an articulate black man, and he used the word plethora. I'll never forget it.
Did you look it up?
I just had never heard.
Yeah.
I had never heard a black man talk the way he had talked, and it completely floored me, and it changed my life just hearing him give one speech for about 5 minutes to some youngsters. We were just in a room. Yeah. He came in the room and he started talking, and I just never heard. You know, I'm from Memphis, and I had a Memphis accent and all that, which I wish I had now, but I don't have it much anymore. But I lost it somewhere. But he came in and he just talked in a way I had never heard before, and it blew my mind. And then, you know, so that was a role model. Then you get to Morehouse, and Morehouse is all male, as I'm sure most of your audience.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. Morehouse good school, but I don't know how you did it. But you know, go ahead, talk about Morehouse.
It's all male, and Morehouse men have a certain style of behavior. And so again, I saw that for the first time. You know, they talked a certain way, moved their hands a certain way, sat a certain way, dressed a certain way. Everything was very, very particular. And again, just observing that. So it's just a word to the wise that I know everybody doesn't have mentors, and they're saying, well, nobody helped me, and why don't I have that kind of help, and so forth. I got to tell you, you don't necessarily always need mentors. They're great, but you don't always necessarily need them, because there is opportunity to find role models. You can Google people. If you want to be a major dancer on one of these shows, or a major actor or an actress, I can guarantee you can Google somebody who has a background similar to yours that made it. Yeah. And you can try to figure out how they made it and try to emulate some of those things. Sure, there will be some changes and there'll be some differences, but it's going to be, you know, you'll get your shot. You'll get your opportunity if you can identify role models. So, you know, try to be committed to that. So.
And tell us about some of the, you know, major struggles and obstacles you face, because I say people see me, like I say all the time, you see what I'm doing, but you don't know the racism I've had to deal with, all kinds of challenges and obstacles. And people see you, oh, he's a mayor, man, he's this great lawyer. He went to Yale. I mean, I have to say Yale like that. Yale and Morehouse. Yeah. But just talk about some of those struggles, man. They see a brown-skinned man or woman, and it's immediately, okay, we got stuff we have to deal with that no one else has to deal with.
Oh, no doubt about it. So I think right now I'm the only kind of African-American official in a top position in this town. So that's a lot to carry too, right? So just think about that. We've got a city mayor, a county mayor, a member of Congress, and I'm the only African-American of the three. And so that weighs on me sometimes, because I've got to run for re-election. And if I don't win re-election, that means there's probably no African American in the city of Memphis or in Shelby County in a top position. So that's a little bit of a weight to carry. I think I may be the only African American county mayor in the state, and so that also sets up an interesting dynamic. So if if you're looking for somebody to pick on, you know who they're likely to come after, because it's the way it is. There ain't gonna be no more African American county mayors right across the state, so it's likely to fall here. So some of that stuff is it just is what it is. It's a real tough road. You just got to kind of keep doing the best you can do every day you can. Obviously interacting with the press. You know what I mean. There is not as much diversity in the press as there needs to be.
That's why I bounced.
Yeah, I
had to bounce. Yes,
and that has real ramifications to the kind of stories that you see, and the kind of conversations we have. Yes. It makes a huge difference, and so we just need a lot more diversity in the press. I think for the most of my career, I don't know that I have been covered for a significant part of my career, and I've been in elected office now 11 years. Yeah. I don't think I've had a significant period where I was covered by an African American. And, you got to remember, it's on the Memphis City Council, which is 67% black. I was there for 3 years. There weren't any African Americans covering, at least on the print side of things, where, they spend the most time at City Hall, or the print media. There was no African American doing that 3 years covering. Went to the State Senate for 4 years. I was the first African American minority leader, and certainly no African American journalists who were embedded there to cover what happened at the state level. And now at the county level, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, I'm not saying there are not African-American journalists out there. There are, and they're filing good stories and so forth. All I'm saying is there is not enough, and it makes a great difference. I'll give one quick story just to give this some flesh here, or give it some meat here. And when I started in the state Senate, and I was a professor at the University of Memphis for 14 years, really pride myself on that, and my ability to say what I think and try to communicate well. I think my first week or two, one of the preeminent journalists wrote a story and quoted me as having said, "I'm finna go to the barbershop."
Oh my God! Oh man!
In the very first story.
Oh wow!
Now.
What you finna go to the barbershop?
I know, and I don't mind.
Yeah, I got
I'm
you.
fixing to go.
I got you. I'm fixing to go. I got you.
But in that context and in that place, I almost certainly didn't say what he wrote. Right? That's just the way it is. I almost certainly didn't talk to him in that way. And so I called, of course, and asked for a correction, and we went all the way through it. I mean, it was a big, huge argument about whether I said it, and I said, "Come on, man, I didn't say that to you." And then we walked through. In the state Senate, there are so many country senators, right?
Yeah.
They represent all the rural areas of the state of Tennessee, and they talk a very particular way. And they say things like "fixin" and "finna"
all the time.
All the time.
Not all the time. All the time.
Every other sentence.
Yeah.
So he had me quoted next to many of them, and their quotes had all been cleaned up.
Yeah.
No, it was stated perfectly. And then when he got to my quote, because this was a huge, splashy story, it was more than 1,000 words. It was a big story. It was a big story. Then he got to my quotes, and all of a sudden, Lee Harris from Memphis, that's where I got to be. Yeah. Lee Harris from Memphis said he finna go.
Oh, no, man, I'm sorry. It's not funny, but it's funny. But it's not funny.
The staff went crazy because the staff knew me well, and the staff was like, "Come on, that didn't happen. That's not. Well, it's not." He didn't say anything like that. And if he did, you have the ability to clean it up and write what you think he meant. And you obviously cleaned up this other stuff because Frank, this guy named Frank Nicely. He's from a real country town. Google Frank Nicely if y'all don't believe me.
Google Frank Nicely.
Google Frank Nicely.
Which camera, Cass? Google Frank Nicely. Google Frank Nicely.
Google Frank Nicely, and believe you me, anything you Google, you're gonna hear every other word. Is mispronounced some kind of way. And I love Frank. Yeah. But that is the way it is. And he had Frank just perfectly clean.
Oh, wow.
Which is impossible. Yeah. Which is impossible. And me, all of a sudden, the 14-year law professor and lawyer and so forth said something different. So that that kind of stuff, and obviously the same sort of stuff happens today right now as county mayor. But that life goes on. I mean, we just keep working and we keep demonstrating that that we're not going anywhere, and that we want the best representation of our race and our legacy to be put forward. And I'm really pleased by what I see happening around Memphis and Shelby County right now, where people saying, African Americans are not being as passive. Because I think, there was some passivity, years ago.
Yes.
But I think there's a lot less of that now. People are now saying, look, I know my value. And I want my value recognized.
That's why I had to leave, man. I mean, I got you. Go ahead, man. Yeah.
So that's really good to see, and I see that happening in politics more and more. Still not happening enough, right? Still not happening enough, but it is happening more because it was, when I started again 11 years in elected office. 11 years ago, there was just too much passivity. But we've got to make sure people know and respect our value, and we've got to kind of call some things out from time to time, and so. I'll do my part. I know you're doing your part, and we're gonna all be better for it.
No doubt. See, when I think about when you saying us no longer being passive, it reminds me of Cedric the Entertainer on Kings of Comedy when he was like, he's the president. And then tell us about Monica Lewinsky. Like, hold on, dog. How you gonna ask me in front of my wife to take care of business? Don't ask me any disrespectful things. So how do you deal with them obvious disrespectful questions, man?
Man, it is hard.
Because you are from Memphis, man.
I know. It's hard because you want to get upset and all that kind of stuff. but you know that they'll stereotype you more.
Yeah.
They'll stereotype you more. Even when I'm not in a fight, I'm in a fight.
Yeah.
Right? If you read the media,
of course, yes.
you Google Lee Harrison fight.
Yeah.
I'm in a fight.
Yeah.
I'm in a fight all the time. Because it's just it's what people are used to, whether it's true or not, and so they're gonna tell that story that makes them comfortable instead of telling the true story. But I like what's happening, and it's not just Memphis and Shelby County. It's around the country. I was so excited when I heard about Coach Dion.
Yes, sir. No, I saw it. Yeah.
And Coach Dion said, "Look, I don't mind you calling me Dion, but put some coach on it.
Put some coach on it. Put some respect on it. Yes.
Put some coach on it." And I said, "That's right. You know, I mean, that's not too much to ask." He's a friendly guy, and I heard the tape. It was a friendly way. He just said, "Look, can you just call me coach?"
Yeah, just call me coach.
Which is my official designation. Yeah. And we're on the radio. Yeah. We're having a thing here. Man, we're not at the bar. Yeah. We're on the radio. I mean, so, you know, Deion Sanders gets it, and that kind of stuff is making more noise, which is really, really important because, again, we've got to know our value, and we've got to put it out there into the world. Yeah. Take up some space and say, no. That's we're not going to let this stuff happen.
Now, you've done some great things for our community, but being Shelby County Mayor, you have to, you know, I got the Memphis on here, Memphis. I'm from Memphis. Yeah, but he has to deal with the whole county. It ain't just right. Memphis. But how do you deal with, I mean, I love us and I love my people, but they think you the mayor. We want it all. Yeah. Don't worry about nobody else. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance that? Because you are the mayor of the entire counties, not just Memphis, the city of Memphis, which is predominantly black. How do you balance, you know, like, okay, I'm still, you know, serving you all, but I'm serving everybody because we're one county?
So you also have to be humble, in my view. In other words, you've got to know that you have some limits and that there are limits on your power. Not everybody can do everything or be everything to all people. And so I'm quick to make sure people know that from the start. So I let them know from the start. I know that when you think of politicians, you sometimes think of somebody like Superman who's coming in to save the day. Well, that's not me. I'm limited.
Yeah.
What I'm coming in to do is to be a partner. And partnership is the right way of thinking about it in my mind, because partnership signals that you're going to do something and I'm going to do something. Mm-hmm. And that's how we're going to get something accomplished, is that everybody's going to pitch in to get it done. And I promise I'll do my part. So just kind of set those expectations to let people know, and also setting some guardrails, setting some limits. So, you know, folks sometimes, like you say, want me to, have the us versus them mentality. Mm-hmm, yeah. And, you know, Memphis has a history of us versus them, whether it's white versus black, suburban versus urban, rich versus hopeful, whatever the difference is, there's always that us versus them in Memphis. And I try to tell people from the start, I didn't run for office for that. I ran for office for a positive agenda of what we want to get done, right? What do we want to see in the future? Not all. I don't want to spend all my time criticizing or fighting a particular group over and over again. I want to represent all, and I want to get some things done. So let's talk about that, a positive agenda. So reminding people of that, reminding them you can do everything, and reminding them of what motivates you. And what motivates me is a positive agenda.
Now, and I know representation matters, and before we wrap this up, I want to take, now going to Yale, mm-hmm. Yale Law School, I'm pretty sure you had to deal with some racism there, because a lot of people, I'm pretty sure they looked at you like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. So how did you work your way through that and say, I'm going to push that aside? You know, I have a goal here.
Right. So I think, so that part of Yale was not bad for me. I think probably the part that created that kind of tension was just being from Memphis in a faraway place, gotcha. A very different place. You know, I'd seen some things by the time I got to Yale for sure, but I still hadn't seen as much as other folks in that community. Mm-hmm. So I think that created a lot of difference in terms of kind of black heritage and black empowerment. I never had any of those kind of problems at Yale, because my history is so steeped in black heritage, right? You know, I went to all black schools until I went to high school, and I went to Overton, and Overton was majority black. And then I went to all black again for college. So, you know, you go to HBCU, it's empowering, right? HBCU, just that experience of being at HBCU and being surrounded by other HBCU college graduates it strengthens you. And so, you can't come out of an HBCU experience without some fortitude. So I carried that with me to Yale. And so I was a pretty strong Black man, and by the time I got there and got to that setting, so that wasn't that tricky to me. It was just being from the South and being somewhere where people have a variety of different experiences, and my parents were middle class, but in terms of that community, we were definitely the lower classes in terms of wealth, right? So it's just a real big difference being a scholarship kid there. And I worked, I was a security guard when I was at Yale. I taught to undergrads. I taught first-year students. I was trying to hustle, so that I wouldn't have extraordinary loans. I still had some loans, but when you put the scholarship and all my work together, I didn't have extraordinary loans. So those kinds of things created a difference. Because I'm known as the guy who works the front door. No one else is working the front door. I'm at the front door. I'm checking ID.
Orders. What's the
I had a desk.
I had a desk
and a computer. And I check people in, let you come in or don't let you come in, and those kind of things. So that does create something, just not being that wealthy in those kind of environments. But Morehouse and my experience here in Memphis, I was Black and proud, and there was no way around that at Yale.
Absolutely. Well, salute, man. Anything else you want to add, Mayor Lee Harris of Shelby County, before we get up out of here? Just thanks for coming through, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, thanks. Thanks for having me. Shout out to your production company here. Y'all doing a great job.
ISF Productions, Cassius McGowan.
That's right. And so I'm glad to be here, and have me back again.
Mayor Lee Harris, Mayor of Shelby County, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Doc Holliday Show, where we like to uplift Black men, Black woman, Black teen, Black child. Until next week, I'm out.
What you cooking, Mom?
Good job, man.
All right, man.
That was perfect.
All right.
Yeah, no, that was